Hey there, and welcome to The Explainer. We all know data is crazy valuable, right? But how do you actually sell it or share it without completely losing control? Today, we're diving into a really cool system that works kind of like a super smart vending machine for data, and it might just be the key to a fair and secure digital economy.
You've heard it a million times. Data is the new oil, data is the new gold. But here's the problem. Unlike oil, once you share a piece of data, it's gone. You've often lost all control over it. And for any business or creator, that's a massive risk. So the big question is, how do you unlock all that value without just handing over the keys to the kingdom?
And that really gets to the heart of the problem with data sharing today. On one hand, it's often a total free-for-all, where data gets passed around and its value just gets watered down. On the other hand, it's locked down so tight inside company vaults that nobody can use it. There's really no smart middle ground. Or at least, there wasn't.
So, how do we solve this mess? Well, let's use a simple but really powerful analogy to walk through how this system works. For just a minute, forget about servers, APIs, and databases. Instead, I want you to picture a smart vending machine. Now, this is not your average snack machine that just spits out a bag of chips. No, this thing is intelligent. It doesn't just give data to anyone who asks. It knows who is asking, it knows what they want, and it follows a really strict set of rules to decide if and, more importantly, how it's going to grant access. It's a gatekeeper, a cashier, and a security guard all rolled into one. To really get a feel for how this smart machine operates, let's follow a single request for data from the very beginning to the very end. It's a four-step journey that all happens in the blink of an eye, but this is where all the magic is. It's pretty straightforward. First, someone makes a request for some data. Then, the system has to decide if that request is okay based on its rulebook. If it gets the green light, it will serve the data. And finally, and this part is absolutely critical, it will meter the usage to create a perfect auditable record. So, request, decide, serve, meter. Let's break those down.
Okay, step one, the request. The first thing it hits is something called the access gateway. Honestly, the best way to think about this is like a really sophisticated bouncer at an exclusive club. It checks your ID, your digital identity. It looks at your credentials, your reputation, even why you're trying to get in. It's that first line of both defense and decision-making.
So based on that check-in, our bouncer, the gateway, makes a call. It could just be a simple allow, you're in, or a flat-out deny. And if it denies you, it'll tell you why. But the real game changer here is this option in the middle, allow with obligations. This isn't just a yes or no. It's a yes, but here are the conditions. So what are these obligations? Well, you can think of them as custom-fit rules for every single request. For example, the system might say, sure, you can have this data, but I'm going to black out all the personal names first. Or maybe you can't download the entire thing, but here's a small representative sample. It can even control how fast you get the data or force you to run your analysis inside a secure digital sandbox. This right here is what real fine-grained control looks like. Now, this level of control sounds pretty complex, but it's not just making things up on the fly. Every single one of these decisions is guided by a crystal-clear, pre-written digital rulebook. This is the system's policy. And this policy engine basically works by asking four simple questions every single time a request comes in. First, who is asking? That's the principal. It checks their identity, their reputation. Second, what do they want? That's the resource, the specific data set, down to the version. Third, how do they want to use it? That's the action. Are they just reading it or trying to export it? And finally, context. What are the circumstances, like the time of day, their geographic location, or their license agreement? The answer to these four questions decide everything. Okay, so the system decided to grant access, and the data has been served. The journey's over, right? No. This brings us to the final, and you could argue, the most important step of all, metering. Every single transaction generates what you can think of as a cryptographically signed, completely unfakeable receipt. And this is not your typical paper receipt from the grocery store. It captures every single critical detail. It logs who got the data, what they accessed, right down to the exact version. It records why they were allowed access by pointing to the specific rule that was triggered. And most importantly, the whole thing is sealed with a cryptographic signature, which makes it totally tamper-evident. It is the absolute, undeniable proof of what happened. And this is why those receipts are so unbelievably important. They are the bedrock of trust for this entire system. Because you have this verifiable proof of usage, you can finally build fair billing systems.
And even more exciting, you can create a transparent way to pay out royalties to everyone who contributed to that data. Without this proof, a data economy is really just a nice idea.
So, let's zoom out. We've looked at the nitty-gritty, the gateway, the policies, the signed receipts. But what does it all add up to? Well, these are the fundamental building blocks for something much, much bigger, a true functioning and transparent data economy.
This entire new economy is built on 4 core promises that create trust. The system is explainable, there are no black boxes, every decision is tied to a rule you can look at. It's deterministic, the same request will get the exact same answer every single time. It's traceable, you can follow every piece of data from where it came from to how it was used. And it's tamper evident. Those signed logs make sure nobody can go back and secretly change the story.
And all of that leads to the ultimate payoff. I'm going to read this quote directly from the source material because it just nails it. Because events, ownership, and valuation are versioned, payouts are deterministic and explainable. In plain English, that means you get paid fairly, transparently, and in a way that can be proven. That's the holy grail of the data world.
So let's end on this thought. Today, most of the world's data is either locked away where no one can use it, or it's given away basically for free. But what if a system like this became the norm? If every single interaction with data was metered, priced, and fairly paid for? What new worlds of innovation, of research, of business could we possibly build? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer.